evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Okay. So, a couple things are happening tonight. The first of which is that we are specifically purposed here to discuss the articles. This is the public hearing on the articles for the special town meeting. And we've got copies of that. Has everybody, have we distributed that?
That's this, right?
Okay, it's still printing. That'll be out in just a minute. Yeah, but most people should, most of the committee should have the copies, but we're getting some extras made. So that's part of it. Speaking of the devil, does anybody intergovernmental, municipal? Pat needs one. All right, so while that's happening, can I have a motion from the Finance Committee to open a Finance Committee meeting? Bruce? Joe? Oh, who's second? Jim. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're in session. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing for the Finance Committee? Pat? Second? Joe? All in favor of opening the public hearing? Everybody? Is everybody in favor? Okay, because it seems like we're not sure. All in favor of opening the public hearing, can I get one vote? Great, thank you. Those opposed? Municipal Operations is with us and is going to be co-hearing this with the Finance Committee. So, Peter, can you open the public hearing for your folks?
Make a motion for the municipal operations, open the,
I'll second that.
okay. All in favor?
Governmental go.
Motion to open the public part of the hearing.
Okay. Now, there's just one more proviso. We had said last week to the intergovernmental relations folks that we were going to table the library article until today. And I think it was also on an agenda. And yet, we voted it Monday. So we wanted the intergovernmental folks to be able to be here, ask their questions, and also get the opinion that was rendered from town council on the motion and did it cover all the points that we needed it to cover. And I think that that's being printed right now. So I wanted to take them first because that was the only thing that they had, and they can go, and then we can continue on with our agenda. I see that municipal regulations is supposed to be here for 4 of these articles. Huh? Can you use the microphone, please, Mr. Hanson?
For the special town meeting, the only 2 articles that were signed to another standing committee was the municipal operations. That's what's on my record.
And I think I recall that as well. I'm not sure why it's on this.
But the need to get the ad in and so on, we had to cover everybody in case.
Oh, that's right. For the ad in the paper said,
So-
and standing committees.
But actually, it's no harm of them listening, and
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Okay. Do we have the opinion yet? Give me 30. Mrs. Hill.
We now have a quorum.
Very
So
nice.
I
Did
will
you want to open your...
entertain a motion to open the public hearing for intergovernmental relations.
Yeah, for you folks, it'd be a continuation, but...
All in favor? Okay, we're all set.
Okay. And what we're doing is just getting the copies of the string of email communications about the legal opinion that a couple of people had questions. The bottom line is that the motion will have to go as written. Actually, this is the most important. Just pass this one out for right now. Yeah. Thanks, Joanne. Okay. All right, so intergovernmental relations. I guess we're here to answer any questions that you folks might have.
Well, I think you kind of touched on it, but basically you said that the article or the motion is going to go as written on the original handout
Right.
that we had. We
Right.
cannot have any stipulations of only $7 million or 50% or any of that wording in that motion?
Right, and more particularly, it sounds to me from reading this that bond counsel is more restrictive about that than, right.
So there's no limit on what they can borrow?
Did the Finance Committee have any additional questions on the library, now that they've got the decision in hand from the, or the opinion in hand from Town Council? All right, well, we voted it already, I just wanted to know if there were any questions.
It's these. I have a question, Rick. Okay.
Did you guys want some more time, or,
I'd like to read it.
because we can move on to another article and then come back to you if you'd like.
Thank you. Okay. That would be great.
Okay. Peter, did you want to move ahead with Article 1 for the special? I'm just asking in terms of, because we'll do that, and then we can come back to them, and, okay? I'm sorry? Okay. The first article in the special appears in the agenda. It happens to be Article 5, okay. Killing me. All right. Oh, that language. That language. That language. Pat, would you read Article 5, please?
Article 5 for the special town meeting, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to cover the cost of completing site improvements for better drainage and handicap access, or to take any other action relative thereto for $100,000.
Thank you. Was there somebody from this, let me see, who was speaking on this article?
That will be me.
Mr. Town Manager, welcome. Okay, so this is at the Council on Aging. Can you tell us about this?
For those of you that don't know, we had to close the building for most of the winter due to frost heaves. The frost heaves are a result of the fact that there is problems, and I do have a drawing here that I'll be glad to distribute around. It's the only copy I have. We are proposing to tear up the existing pads, which rose up to a way that we could not open and close the doors, which means there was no second means of egress. So for public safety reasons, we had to close the building down. It is primarily a design flaw. There is no drainage, so we're going to install drainage. And there was no expansion joints put into concrete to take care of frost heaves. To quote my building facilities person, it's a perfect building for San Diego, but it is not a perfect building for Stoughton, Mass.
This is a $100,000 fix for frost heaves?
Correct.
Are we putting an addition on, or?
No, what you're doing is you're tearing up the existing pads and you're excavating, you're laying pipe to the retention pond so that it drains. Remember, this is a building with no gutters or downspouts.
Yeah.
So all the liquid sheets off the building and gathers at the base of the building.
Does it make sense to put in gutters and downspouts now to tie into that evacuation system in the
That
building?
is what we're going to do as part of
Okay,
this.
that's part of the scope?
Yeah.
All right, good. Questions, municipal operations?
I notice it says here to complete site improvements. That would imply that site improvements were already started. How much have we allocated for that?
Completing site improvements just means you're improving the existing site. Nothing started.
Okay, the word completing kind of leads that something was started and ran out of funding.
Yeah, no, nothing ran out of funding. It's just an inappropriate design, the way the building's set up, quite frankly.
So also inappropriately worded here saying complete.
This wording was run by town council, that's what they suggested.
Okay. And you mentioned that this is a perfect San Diego building. And if you put gutters on that, will that cause more problems with ice dams? So you just move the ice up on top of the roof rather than on the ground?
It could potentially, yes, gutters do that. On the other hand, the fact that there are no gutters causes the water to just pool at the base of the building. So the other alternative would be to excavate and install French drains, which wouldn't make much sense either.
But if you're going to go and let the water come down off, if you're going to put gutters up there and the ice potential staying up there, for example, the winter that we've had this year, would it make more sense also to add heated wires up there in preparation? I don't know the building well enough to say, but
That's something that, the way this is set up now is we're proposing that the area here in the yellow is an alternate bid in case bids come in under 100K, and that would also include things like the wiring to do the ice melting.
okay. All right. Anybody else?
Ms. Walsh?
Did you want to see this?
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street. I haven't seen that drawing. Is it an entrance, or was it the main entrance and then the fire exit from the big room? So it'd be two different spots. My understanding was we couldn't use the main room because the fire exit doors wouldn't open because of the frost heave.
Correct. But it
So
is two different
are we fixing
spots.
that one and the front entrance?
Yes,
So the money is for two.
correct.
One's an entrance and one's an exit.
One's an
But the
exit.
fire department won't let you operate, especially when you have seniors with just one way in and one way out. I do have a construction background, and it just would seem to me, as was alluded to, that the person who put in that concrete didn't put in adequate footing for this climate area. But that's water in the ice. I think gutters don't solve the problem. As you drive around town, gutters are falling off buildings. They're lying on the sidewalk. This weather just defeated anything. And heat tape, at least in my family, my father always felt that that was more of a fire hazard than a preventive measure. And he was a construction superintendent also.
Any questions from the Finance Committee? Roberta? And Jim?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the town manager. Do we have a date when the building was constructed, and who was the overseer, who was the person, the clerk of the works that oversaw that?
I'm certain we have a date. I can look that up for you. I don't know who oversaw it. I will defer to someone like Ms. Walsh. Any idea on when it was constructed?
It seems to me it was
Okay. I've heard
wasn't on the board.
roughly 2000, 2002, so the building's roughly 13 years old. Yeah, it's long out of warranty.
What's the condition of the roof?
The roof's actually in good shape.
Does it have that, like, undercoating that prevents water from leaking through the, like, first 8 feet?
Right. Out of all our buildings, this is one of the few this year that didn't leak, somewhere along the line.
But it didn't have gutters, right?
Correct, but the fact that it doesn't have gutters again causes the water to pool.
Right.
And if we had an adequate drainage system around the building and we diverted the water, because there actually is a retention basin there, it's just that the water does not drain that way. It sits and it undermines the concrete.
Jim, did you get your question? Go ahead.
I see two parts of this thing. It says better drainage and handicapped access. I presume that the handicapped access is the frost heave, the pad pushing up.
Correct.
Do you have a breakdown of how much of this 100K is drainage and how much of it is handicapped access?
We do somewhere, yes. But our recommendation from both the town engineer and the facilities administrator is that we proceed with both or with neither.
Thank you.
Joe?
Are we gonna sub this out, or is the DPW gonna do this job?
This will be subbed out.
All right, hearing no other questions, moving on to the next article. Pat, did you want to read
I
that?
can't say the price would be cheaper if we were going to do it in-house, but again, whenever we do anything in-house, something that they're supposed to be doing goes undone.
Article SP6, Highway Department Equipment, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to purchase the following piece of equipment for the Highway Department or take any other action relative thereto. One new LaRue D65 ribbon-style loader-mounted snow blower with 365 horsepower Cummins engine, ribbon auger, 40 impeller, 18-inch telescope loader chute, estimated cost $169,400.
Mr. Town Manager? This is the snowbank eater?
This is a snowbank eater that attaches to an end loader. Had we had this particular piece of equipment, we could have widened streets a lot quicker this storm season than we were able to. At the request of a member of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Batchelder has requested this piece of equipment.
Questions? Mr. Trunfio? And then Peter.
Yeah, is this an attachment that goes on the front of a loader, or is this like the one they had the conveyor belt on it and all that, it's self-propelled?
No, it's an attachment that goes on the front of a loader.
Okay.
Correct. Correct. It will really speed up the process of snow removal, especially in the center.
You mentioned something about like eating the snowbanks, widen the roads, and I commend the DPW and the job that they did this year. But when they did send around a front-end loader, the potential of breaking down fences and everything else is there. This is less likely to do that type of damage. Am I correct in saying that?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not an expert, though, so I can't say definitively, but yes, that's my understanding.
That's the intent.
Yes.
Do we have sufficient dump trucks to pick up the snow that this is going to be able to put around? Are we going to be stuck with the capacity on this thing here that'll fill up, and then we have to wait for this truck to run off and then come back and do their thing?
We have a sufficient number of trucks because they usually focus on one area of town at a time. It just means that with this piece of equipment, the trucks will fill up quicker. It just means that actually they will spend less time queuing up to be filled up with an end loader, bucket by bucket. It'll now be done on a conveyor belt.
No, I totally agree. They turned my yard into a snow farm this year. This would have been able to carry it off out of the neighborhood had they used it down in my neighborhood, okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a question. Do we know how much it cost us to rent that piece of equipment this year?
I do not know that, but I can get that for you.
Yeah, because I think it would be pretty easy to do the calculation on the return on investment if we had to rent it every year for the next 5 years. If indeed there would be a return on investment.
Yeah, I would assume that, I know for a fact that in this particular winter, he did try to rent one, and there was not one available.
But was this, did we get this as a loaner, or how did this work? Did somebody let us borrow that? Where did we get it from?
No, we have one. This would be a second one.
We bought one?
No, I think we have some sort of an attachment. It's not as big as this one, it's not as efficient as this one, but there is some sort of an attachment that they use now.
That's not what we used this winter. We got a new piece of, it's brand new, from somewhere.
Oh, that was probably one of our contract, that was a lease job, that one was.
That's what I want to know, is how much it
Okay.
cost us to lease that one. Because that's the one we want to buy. We got to test drive it this year.
Yeah, you confused me on that one. No, we do lease one, we leased it actually last year, too.
All right, so this is 2-year payback. Okay, Mr. Murphy.
I would rather see us purchase this and stay in the bond for 10 years and never be needed.
I would tend to agree with you. Seeing as how we spent about $1.5 million on snow removal this year. Okay, no other questions on that. I'd like to defer right back to the Intergovernmental Relations Committee because they have one question. Are you done, Peter? It was just those two?
I would like to make a motion that municipal operations reconvene in the room back there.
Very good. Thank you, Municipal Operations. We always appreciate you guys having a quorum and intergovernmental relations. And I can't remember the last time that Finance Committee has not had a quorum. It has been years. Mrs. Hill. Mrs. Ayers.
I'm sorry that I missed the discussion because I would like to hear what Mrs. Colburn had to say about her concerns. I thought at the last meeting regarding the library that what she said was a very important point.
Pat, go ahead.
My concern was not at all in terms of renovating the library. It was in keeping with the spirit of the town meeting vote, which was to not borrow more than $7 million because we would be getting $7 million in a grant. I understand that that article was rewritten on town meeting floor in such a way that basically prohibited us from going forward. So we do need to adjust the article somewhat. I know it's at one point Mrs. Basler was short by only around $62,000. And it certainly is no one's intent to stop the library because of a $16,000 shortfall. So the question became, what would the article be this time, and what would the motion be, and how would it be written? And what my concern was is not doing anything that was against the spirit of the original vote, which was not more than $7 million. The legal opinion that came back that everyone has basically says we cannot put that in the motion. Bond counsel does not want us limiting the motion by saying it has to be contingent on receipt of a grant. So I am still a little concerned by that. It also then does go on to say that it is a matter of timing, and as the grant money comes in, the selectmen do not have to borrow more than they need at any given time. So it's clearly the understanding is that we're not going to borrow and have to spend out of our own pockets $14 million, but we have to be able to borrow and pay up to $14 million depending upon what does come in for the grants. It looks as if we will get the grants, but it's not a guarantee that we'll get the full $7 million. So I think it just comes down to what people are comfortable with.
Well, this is also Groundhog Day, because this is the exact problem that we had in the original article and why it had to be rewritten. And this is the third opinion we've had on this at this point, so.
Well, and if I can add, Rick, the 6.7 is guaranteed.
I thought I had asked you, Michael, and maybe I misheard, is there a way that we wouldn't get that 6.7 million? Is it like a 99% guarantee? I mean, what is the risk we're opening ourselves up to if we approve the motion as written without the language? Because I know we have 2 million in pocket already, don't we?
We will have by the end of May. Essentially, the grant comes, it really comes as a grant. It comes in 3 equal payments, the 6.7 divided by 3. And it comes in 3 consecutive fiscal years. And since were approved in the current fiscal year between now and June 30, and we understand sometime around the time town meeting is starting, we will get the balance of this year's grant, which is over $2 million.
And that's the first payment.
That's the first payment, and then next year we'll get, so the scenario being, for example, the first thing we have to do is find alternative space for the library. We have to rent it, we have to move them, and then we have to begin, I want to say demolition is the word I'm looking for. We have to begin demolition. All of that's going to probably be done without borrowing a cent.
Based on the 2 million.
Correct. And the fact that we've got another 2 point something coming during fiscal 16. My understanding from talking to council and Pat Basler is that once the library votes it, it's locked in. Once the State Library Board votes it. They voted it this past winter. They voted it in, I believe, early January. And that's when we received the first part of the money. And that's when we discovered we couldn't borrow.
So that's the issue. It's balancing what the spirit of town meeting is. We can't put that in the motion. However, it sounds like that is what will happen. When this project is over, we will have gotten the close to $7 million in grant money, and we will put in our 7 if we need it. So I don't want to say it comes down to faith, because I think it is more than that, because we have been approved for the grant. We will get the first payment by town meeting.
I already have it.
He said.
We have a portion of it.
Oh, okay. And the rest, the balance would be by town meeting?
Yeah, what originally happened was that they had funded Stoughton and they had funded Somerville. And Stoughton in the first year was going to get roughly $170K, and then we were going to get the rest of it in 3 equal payments over the next 3 years. Somerville had problems with their location and are not proceeding. So we will get the full 1/3 before this fiscal year is over.
And will that be during town meeting?
My understanding from talking to Pat is she's been told it will come sometime, quote unquote, in May. And the way town meeting goes, we're likely to be meeting sometime in May.
Because I think that might make people feel better if we got that first full payment, knowing that it's 1 of 3, that it doesn't sound like there's a way that we won't get the rest. It's just we can't put it in the actual motion. We
Right.
just cannot.
We're at the point now where people are going to just have to vote it up or down. You know, if
And
they
we
disagree
can't-
with the language.
Yeah.
We can't have people on town meeting floor rewriting it, because that's how we got here in the first
It's a lot
place.
like school building aid. Once you're approved, you get it. It's locked in. The library aid works the same way. You know, that's why it took us from the time this article passed until just this past January to get to the top of the list.
Mrs. Hill. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Ayers or Mrs. Hill, or together.
I just have a question maybe from the other side of it. We, as a town, need to commit to borrow 14 million, even though we may not be borrowing until 14 million. What does that $14 million figure do to our borrowing capacity or ability on it as a whole?
Nothing.
Is it earmarked? Is it
No, it does nothing.
It's not
Any
real.
Any borrowing the town does for a project that has special legislation
Oh.
is exempt from the bond cap. And this project, like a school building, has special legislation.
Right, and again, with the reimbursements that we're getting, the town would be on the hook for the 7 million. But when you calc that in to the overall borrowing, whether it's excluded or not, because we generally try to present every year total debt for the town, whether it's, you know, what we've already been authorized and borrowed, and authorized and not borrowed, and then the total, so. Donna?
I just wanted to ask, on the point of if the library goes over in cost, if
They'll have, the answer is right in here in
that
the
they
legal
have the
opinion.
ability to go ahead and pay whatever beyond
No,
the 14
in the
million?
legal opinion,
Where
it
is
says,
the part that says that that is limited?
you'll have to read the opinion, but it says they'll have to reduce the scope of the project.
That's what I wanted.
They can't exceed their appropriation.
Yeah, you cannot, it would be illegal for us to exceed the appropriation. In fact, it would be, you can result in criminal charges, and I can assure you, as long as I'm here, I have no intention to get charged criminally. Or otherwise.
Me either.
Okay, but this says that we can borrow up to 14 million. So if the state pays their 7 million and it goes over, the library could conceivably still borrow up to 14 million. Is that right, or is that wrong? Because we were not able to contain
we're going
anything.
I guess
borrow up
I
to
can commit
14
for the
million.
Board of Selectmen, they would not borrow more than 50%. And if the library trustees don't borrow, only the Board of Selectmen can borrow.
Right.
And
It's a building,
the Board
town
of Selectmen
building.
has
So there is a
heard and
control that says
understands
that they
town
can't
meeting's
borrow more than
message.
that in there. Okay, because I didn't see that language. Thank you.
Pat?
Just the third paragraph, that last sentence, I just want to read that, Don. I think this addresses what you're saying. If the full project would exceed the amounts committed therefore, including the contingency, then as with any other project, trade-offs would need to be made. In other words, the town would have to reduce the scope of the project to fit within the appropriation made therefore. No, this is the legal opinion. No.
So we're really at a point where we have to live with the language that we have, particularly because the good example was, school windows. If we don't get the funding for it, then we don't do the project. So, but
I
we
guess-
can't put this into the article based now on three councils' opinions.
Yeah. And I would add, Rick, that it's not in the motion because, again, as a matter of law, we cannot borrow more than is appropriated. We cannot spend more than is appropriated. Correct. But the 14 million includes all grant funds.
For which we've been approved and are going to be distributed to the town.
There will not be a $21 million library, if that's what your concern is, that will borrow 14 and then they'll use the grants. There will not be a $21 million library. I can't imagine.
And I guess I need to clarify, it's not even going to be a $14 million library because the $14 million costs included relocation and location back. It included a large contingency because it was anticipated that it would not be constructed before 2015. So there's a fudge factor in there. It also was predicated, again, so that we would not exceed the estimate on the most expensive of building materials. So we have lots of options once we start building to stay within the budget.
And I believe this town manager, it will be on top of it, and I just cannot imagine the selectmen saying, okay, we're going to go in excess of the appropriation. So yeah, I would love it if the wording could be different. It just can't. So we just, have to make peace with what it is and vote it.
But we tried to do this when we originally passed this. It said it was contingent upon a 50% grant from the state. And that's why they had to go back and redo this for the very same reason, because we tried to put it in back then.
Why
So,
can't we just own 7 million and be done with it like we do for
because they require us to borrow the full $14 million for the appropriation.
Good faith.
All right, I think we've, yeah.
Motion-
I think we've
we'll-
had enough, no. hang on a second.
Intergovernmental's going to reconvene.
Thank you, Jim.
Everything that's been said here says to me that there better be a big emphasis on cost control early on and throughout this project, or we're not going to end up with the library that we planned in the beginning.
I
of
can
this thing.
guarantee you that I have never, in 40 years' experience, built a building that went over budget, and I have built schools, including a high school, and this will not be my first.
Well, there's not much gets built in Stoughton that doesn't go over budget.
I recognize that, Jim.
Thank you.
Well, quite the contrary, they come in on budget, and we end up with problematic
Yeah, I
buildings.
would think that that's probably more true than the former.
Right, and we've also made a commitment to not use clerk of the works, that we're going to use professional management companies to build our buildings going to the future.
Yeah, given a project of this size, we are required by statute to hire an owner's project manager.
Right. So the high school building, for example, we've hired an owner's project management company to manage that project. No clerk of the works. That's right. Any other questions on this? All right. Let's go back to the special town meeting. This is Article 1. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to replace one school department vehicle or take any other action relative thereto. There's $40,000 being requested. Mr. Harding, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, we're replacing a 1998 Chevrolet CK 2500 four-wheel drive, 3/4 ton truck. We're going to replace it with a 1-ton four-wheel drive with a plow. It's part of our daily use for our maintenance crew, and is part of our plow team. So this is on we generally rotate our vehicles through every 4 years or so, depending
Now,
on.
does the school plow their own lots?
We, as much as possible, we plow our own lots, yes.
And then the DPW supplements where necessary?
Correct.
Okay.
What we try to do is at least keep the buildings open when we have a large snowstorm, at least keep the buildings open for emergency vehicles until DPW can get to the, DPW obviously does the streets first and then comes in and does us.
Sure you didn't want to buy a sky crane so you can get all the snow off those roofs?
I was
sir?
going to ask for a second one, but I figured maybe,
I'm sorry, I digress. Is there any questions from the committee on this truck?
Can I just add, I believe this was priority number 3
yes. Under the specialist priority.
under special, yes.
No, excuse me. Under the special, it was priority number 2.
2.
We put the west windows in, which was priority number 1, went into the annual, which moved everybody up 1. on the
Right,
special.
so 1 through 4 on the special, this was number 3. And it becomes number 4 if you add the windows to it, which is not part of the special, but,
No, it was number 3 under the original list, I believe, and now becomes number 2.
I think I'm going to beg to differ. Not that it's your prerogative, certainly, but, I had 5. So 1 was windows, 2 was
OMS,
the OMS media, let me see, air conditioning and the OMS.
yep,
That was 2. 3 was the truck, from what I understood.
correct,
4
was the
was
SHS.
the air conditioning for the administrative offices at the high school, and 5
Was the
was
Gibbons.
the fire and suppression system for the kitchen hoods at the Dawes School.
Correct,
Okay,
correct. So this now moves up to 2 from 3.
so you're changing that to 2.
No. Under the special,
Oh, under the special, okay, okay. I got you. Other questions from the committee?
now I'm confused.
All right, moving on to Article 2, new fire suppression systems for the Dorr and Gibbons schools, to see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to install fire suppression systems in the kitchen hoods at the Joseph R. Dorr Jr. and Joseph H. Gibbons elementary schools, or take any other action relative thereto. $100,000 is being asked. Go ahead, Joel.
This is an item from the Facilities Master Plan, was being put forward by the Facilities Master Planning Committee. As you know, kitchens and boiler rooms are the only 2 places really that produce fire in schools usually. So we're asking for the fire suppression system for the hoods. We have hood suppression systems at the middle school, Hanson, and high school presently. So these are the next 2 schools on the priority list.
Okay. Questions from the committee or from the public? It's a public hearing. All right. Seeing, Jim? I could feel that question over there.
What do they use for fire suppression in these,
It's a dry chemical now. They can no longer use
Halon? It's not Halon or
CO2,
anything.
no longer can
none
use
of those.
Halon. So it's a dry chemical, and I have no idea what the,
Okay, so it's not the kind of thing that's going to gas everybody in the building
no,
if it happens
no,
to go.
they
Good, thank you.
stopped using those, yes.
Isn't Halon a video game? Oh, that's Halo, sorry.
Yeah.
Seeing no other questions, moving on to
Don't know about those.
Article number 3, install air conditioning units in the media center at the O'Donnell Middle School. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to install an air conditioning system in the media center at the Dr. Robert G. O'Donnell Middle School, and/or take any other action relative thereto. Joel?
Yes, this is partially to replace an air conditioning system in the two computer labs at the middle school. In addition, we're asking to also air condition the media center because of the programs that are now being housed at the middle school during the summer. Specifically, we've moved several of the programs from the West School to the media center, or the middle school in general. And so the request was that the media center at the middle school be air conditioned when we did this project.
Okay. Questions? Ms. Welch?
If I heard Mr. Harding correctly, he was talking about more than the media center. And the only thing in the article is the media center.
Mr. Harding?
Yes, I think, the intent was to replace the two existing air conditioning units over the two computer labs and to air condition the media center as well with this system, as well as the server room, which is just off the media center.
So the article title says install air conditioning units, plural, in the media center at the O'Donnell Middle School. Are the computer labs and the server room over in that area?
Yes, they're all within basically the, I think, did I not, I thought I gave you a drawing showing the media center and the two adjacent computer labs and the server room, which is just off the media center.
I don't think I recall a map.
I can give you, my copy is not color any longer. Mine is gray, but that.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have an issue with what he wants to do. It's just that the article itself, not the title, but the article itself,
I
doesn't
understand.
include what he wants.
Joe, is the grayed out area the media center?
Yes, the grayed out area, the areas that it's all within
Rick?
System of the media center. All right, again, I hate to be redundant here, but are the computer labs and server room located inside the media center?
the one computer lab you can only get to by going through the media center.
So it's
The
part
other
of,
one, it's
yep,
part of the media center, yeah.
yep. And the server room is somewhere else?
Server room is also part of it. It's one of the
It's off of that room.
small spaces within the media center itself. In other words, there's two offices in the media center. The server room is in the media center.
Okay.
These two computer labs.
Mr. Moderator, would you agree that that works? It says the media center, and these rooms are located within and adjacent to the media center. Yeah, thank you, Jim.
Essentially, install air conditioning in the media center. And you said the servers are right in that.
Server room is right in the media center, as are the two cloud.
I would say that it's generic enough for a warrant article, but I think it should be in the motion that you recommend, because that further defines it.
So you think we can clarify this in the motion?
Make it clear in the motion.
Okay.
And then if there's any objection, then they have to, in other words, he's brought up the question of putting air conditioning in that area of the building. I would say defining it in your motion satisfies everything.
Could I just follow up with that, Mr. Hanson? So if we said something like air conditioning in the media center and computer labs in and adjacent to the media center?
Say including the media room. In other words, if this was on the other end of the building, I would say no, but it is meant to be that area. So say including the media, the computer server room.
Okay.
Is the media center the library? So, I was in there this summer because my daughter started the middle school. The two rooms, there are walls, but I don't believe there's a ceiling over the computer lab within the I'll call it the library. I don't believe there's a ceiling over that, so you have a bunch of PCs floating around in there in that separate walled off area, but it's an open ceiling. And for those of us that are old enough to remember, this room used to be the cafeteria. That's it. I was just curious where this at. Like, I keep hearing media center, and I've never heard either of my kids talk about a media center in the middle school.
Oh, okay.
I know it as the library.
When we did the reconstruction, as Bruce was saying, this whole area was considered the media center because it had the computer labs, it had the offices, it had the quote-unquote old library where the books are kept. But this whole area was intended to be the media center because of all of the media that they kept there. In one area, there is a ceiling.
I won't be the one asking the question.
Okay, but we'll clarify it in the motion as well, according to, per the direction of the town moderator. That certainly makes sense, and we'll take any question out of this, and we'll attach the map as part of our references section for anybody that has a question. Ed, did you get your question asked? Roberta, please.
I was there when the media center was constructed. So from a historical point of view, it was the cafeteria. It became an area where there would be print materials, but then there was another area cordoned off that would be separated by a divider, which is something similar to what the previous speaker, where the computers would be. So it would be a secure area. So it was always one big area.
Yep.
It was never a separate area. It was called the media center. That's really what its name was. It wasn't really called the library and a computer room. It was called the media center. People may have referred to it that way, but it was the media center.
Which is probably why you're referring it to, as the media
That's what it
center.
was.
Correct. And what Dr. Camacho was saying too, if you walk into, I gotta watch my terms, what you would consider the library now, where the books are, there's double doors into the computer labs, so that those doors can be opened, so that if people are sitting in the library space, they can also hear and see what's going on in the computer space, making, as we've said, this whole area a media center. You know, the library spaces holds your traditional media, if you will, the magazines, books, newspapers, whatever. The other spaces hold your electronic media.
Is it your intent to air condition what is known as the library and that adjacent computer room? And
Rooms.
separately the server room?
No, it would all be the same system, one system.
Okay.
But they would be split systems so that each would have its own controls.
So that the library and the computer lab and the server room would all be air conditioned?
Correct.
Because I don't know how you do the computer lab without doing the media, the library, right? If you're saying it's open?
It can be open. There are doors that can
but
be
you
secured.
can close it.
You can close it so
Okay.
you can secure it. Well, originally when it was done, everybody thought computers were very expensive and we didn't want anybody to steal them. Now we're trying to give them away. So we leave the doors open. But at that time, the doors were put in there so that supposedly we could secure the area and nobody would get into that area.
Yeah, good. Yeah, please don't try and replace them with iPads because apparently there are none. Mr. Tronfio, then Mr. Guerin.
Yeah, is this a rooftop unit or the ductless type unit?
It'll be a
or-
rooftop unit.
It'll be a
duct-
rooftop.
duct-
So you're gonna run the
ductless-
ducts off the whole thing into the different areas?
Ductless system, but it would be with a rooftop unit.
Yeah.
Mr. Guerin?
Would you repeat for me, please, what the summertime use of this thing is going to be?
Well, the middle school obviously has summer school, but also we have several programs that were based at the West in the past, in the last couple of years, that have now moved to the middle school, and they use the media center library, computer rooms on a regular basis, on a daily basis throughout the summer.
Daily basis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Except Fridays.
Say again?
Except Fridays, maybe. I think they go Monday through Thursday.
Thank you.
Most of the programs, yeah.
Any other questions on any of the articles in the public hearing? Bob?
The new vehicle, what are you doing with the old vehicle?
We trade them in.
You trading in? And do you have your own policy, or do you adhere to the town policy as far as new vehicles are concerned?
We have our own policy as far as green vehicles.
Yes.
The Energy Sustainability Committee came before the school committee, presented their policy. I don't know where that is at as far as the school committee voting it. Usually, when a policy comes forward to the school committee, they have one or two or three readings of the policy before they vote it, so I don't know where that is.
So is this an energy-efficient 4x4 350 Hemi with a snowplow on it? Or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Have
I'm
a-
sorry. Do
it'll-
we have an inventory of all the school vehicles?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Have a solar panel on the roof.
The solar panel on the roof and a windmill in the back. All right.
I think you skipped 4.
Oh, did I skip 4? Sorry about that. Thank you. So Article SP4, replace air conditioning system in the administrative offices at the high school. See if the town will vote to raise an appropriate transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to install an air conditioning system in the administrative offices at Stoughton High School or take any other action relative thereto.
Could I just speak back to the middle school, well, actually, it's to both of these articles, both the air conditioning articles. National Grid, Columbia Gas, both have demand-side management programs, energy conservation programs. And so both of these projects will be submitted to them under those programs. So we do expect some money back from them for both of these projects.
That was Columbia and National?
National, correct. How much it'll be, we're not sure because they changed their percentages every year and season to season, so, but they will be submitted.
Okay.
Is this part of the media center?
Is,
No, just that was a joke,
oh,
a bad one.
yeah.
Yes, go ahead, Denise, yep.
Why are these two items necessary if you're going to replace the high school?
Well, the time frame for replacing the high school, we're probably looking 3 to 5 years minimum.
I'd say 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This system is probably not going to last that long, and in fact is probably not going to last. If I could get it through the summer, and I'm not confident I can, I would try. This system is extremely old, extremely inefficient, and it needs to be replaced, or because it is a water-cooled system. If the cooling tower that's on the roof of the media center, beg your pardon, fails, we're out of business until we replace it anyway.
Well, what about fans in the administrative offices?
Those would not do it. For people that are in there all year round, no, it needs to be air conditioned.
Okay. Any other questions on the articles for the public hearing? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing? Jim? Second, Bruce? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, now, I think that we also put on the agenda that we can vote tonight on these 6, and I'd like to do that. But we've had a request from the schools to vote on the school budget only tonight. So my intent is that we distribute the budget that we all worked through last night with all the changes. We get a night or two to review it, and then tomorrow we would sit and then slice through the budget and vote it at tomorrow night's session. So tonight, we heard they had the public hearing for the special articles, special town meeting articles. I would like to vote on those tonight, unless you guys want to sit on it and dwell on it for a night and think about it. And then there's been a request to vote the school budget only, in addition to the regional schools, tonight, because the superintendent will not be here tomorrow when we would take up that item with Article 9. So, can I have a motion to proceed with voting on these articles, including the school budget? Is there a second? And the regionals, thank you. Joe, second. Any discussion? All in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous, all right. So, and there's 2 caveats here, and I'd also like us to take a vote on this, and last year we did that. We inserted specific language into every single article that for sources of funding, that we would use unexpended article money where applicable. We're still trying to work through those numbers with Bill, but I'd like to be able to get a motion and a vote from this committee to include that language in the motions, in all the motions, so that we can include that as part of the motion, if we need to. If we find out that there's money out there in unexpended articles, that we can use it for those motions. So can I have a motion on that motion? John Rock and Denise is seconding. Any discussion on that? Okay. All in favor? Show of hands. Everybody? It's unanimous. Okay. Article 1, special town meeting. To see if the, and again, I make one more note here. I didn't see anywhere other place to put this other than general borrowing. So if you're going to make a motion to approve, then you should probably include it in general borrowing. There's no other sources of funding that we could use to help this, except that we'll use unexpended articles if it's applicable and we have them and can use them, okay? Repurpose them. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow sufficient sum of money to replace the school department vehicle or take any other action relative thereto. It's a request for $40,000, and it would be from general borrowing if approved. Can I have a motion? John Rock, second. Joe? Any discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to install fire suppression systems in the kitchen hoods at the Joseph R. Dorr Jr. and Joseph H. Gibbons Elementary Schools, or take any other action relative thereto. The amount requested is $100,000, and it would be from general borrowing. Is there a motion? Denise has a motion. Is there a second? Bruce, any discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3. Motion passes.
Yeah, that's, no.
All those in favor, please? Show of hands again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My apologies. All opposed? 1. All opposed? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Jim. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So that is approved, and that was on 4-1. Article 3. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to install an air conditioning system in the media center at the Dr. Robert G. O'Donnell Middle School, or take any other action relative thereto. In your motion, you can say that's to include computer labs and server rooms adjacent to the media center. Bruce, second. Joe, any discussion? General borrowing?
Under general borrowing, and yeah, this, in September and the end of the school year, this room gets very, very hot, like a lot of the school buildings, and the kids are somewhat uncomfortable. So I would recommend yes.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second for general borrowing, $65,000. For air conditioning in the media center at the O'Donnell Middle School to include the computer labs and server. Question, Joe? All those in favor, show of hands, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those opposed? 1. Okay. Sorry. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to install air conditioning systems in the administrative offices at Stoughton High School, or take any other action relative thereto. I have a motion, and this would be from general borrowing, $75,000. Is there a motion? John, second. Joe, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Did I get that right? All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. That adds up to 11. Opposed again, just to make sure? Okay, good.
Only one.
Okay. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to cover the cost of completing site improvements for better drainage and handicapped access, or take any other action relative thereto. And this was for install a drainage system and replace the handicap access to the Council on Aging. There's $100,000 requested, and that would be from general borrowing. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Pat, second. Denise, discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. Article 6, Highway Department, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate and/or transfer from available funds in the treasury, if any, and/or borrow a sufficient sum of money to purchase the following piece of equipment for the Highway Department, or take any other action relative thereto. A new LaRue D65 ribbon-style loader mounted snow blower with a 365 horsepower Cummins engine, ribbon auger, 40-inch impeller, 18-inch telescopic loading chute, etc. In the amount of $169,400 from borrowing. Can I have a motion? Joe, second. Bob, Desmond. Any discussion? All those in favor, show of hands, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3. Did I miss that? That's not 11. I did in the first one. All those in favor, one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And opposed? 3, okay. Okay, that concludes the voting on the special town meeting. We can now move to the school budget. Is that still the last 2 pages, or where is that? That's it, it's the last 2 pages. Pat, did you want to do this one? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Should I do the regional school as one number, or should I do Southeast separate from Norfolk Aggie?
We can vote them individually if you'd like.
Okay.
Set them out.
The Southeast regional figure is $1,433. No, it's not. I'm sorry. $1,433,105.
That's on page 56 in the budget that I handed out to you tonight, that was handed out to you tonight, okay? Just so you know.
And that is the latest number from Southeastern.
Right, that was based on their presentation to us in Monday's public hearing. Okay?
Motion to approve?
Pat, motion to approve. Bruce, second. Any discussion?
$1,433,105.
Okay. Any additional discussion? Show of hands, all those in favor? Unanimous? The second was, who was the second? Bruce.
Norfolk County Agricultural, this is still an estimate at $50,000. I think it might be closer to $40,000. We received the enrollment figures, but I tried to reach the business manager several times today with no luck. Basically, 4 seniors graduated, but 11 children have applied. I don't know what they voted in for the latest budget for the cost per student. So what I did is I took last year's figure, divided it by the number of students, took out the graduating seniors, put the 11 who applied back in. I got 40,000. Jamie left it at 50. I don't have a final number yet, so I think if we left it at 50, it would be a maximum.
So let's get a motion and a second so we can discuss.
I'm sorry.
John Rock and Denise. So discussion. Jim.
Town manager's 27,250 come from?
That's
Mr.
last year's. well,
No,
it's
it's
not.
town, Mr. Town Manager, do you know where that 27,250? You just took last year's, okay. Right,
Again, I took that 27,250, divided by the number of students, got us per student expenditure, took out the graduating seniors, put in the 11 who applied. I had nothing to go by whether or not that per pupil amount went up. And I got 40, but,
you got 40 even?
well, no, 39,137.
Then I would make a recommendation that we amend that number to 40,000.
That's the way I feel about it. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I have a friendly amendment?
That's fine. That's what I actually said to Jamie, but she left it at 50. I didn't know if there was more
Right, well,
information I
again,
missed.
we tore this all apart last night and rebuilt it all, so we haven't had a chance really to go through it. This is our first pass at this, so,
Motion for 40,000 for Norfolk County Agricultural.
and I need a second. We're amending it. So the amended motion
Amended.
is for 40,000 now. Oh, you're the maker, I'm sorry, John. Okay, did you want to supplant it with a new motion? Okay, and the second, Denise? All right, any discussion on that motion? On that emotion? Sorry. Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous.
That would make the new bottom line for the regional schools, $1,473,105.
Say again, Pat?
$1,473,105.
Okay, that's 40. Okay, and we don't have anybody at Blue Hills. All right, let's move on to the Stoughton Public Schools. That's on page 57, it's the next page, last page in the budget handout.
$42,950,736.
Can I have a motion to approve? Bruce, and seconded by Jim. Discussion.
That represents the school budget as written minus the $90,000 for the 1.5 school resource officers. We took them out, put them back in the police budget. I didn't get the IT completely answered yet, but
Well, as it relates to this, yeah, for the school budget, right.
But it's close. I do know what, nobody, I guess, really asked to do that before, to look at the expenses from both sides and compare them to a salary. Dr. Rizzi was kind enough to pull a couple of contracts for me today, so I know what that salary is, but I really need to talk to the department head. So if it's at all over, it would be maybe $20,000. And I have no reason to believe it is yet, so I feel confident if I get it answered and something changed, that we could deal with that.
If there's a delta there, Bob, we'll cut the town manager's personal software advisory consultant, so. Any other discussion? Seeing none, show of hands, all those in favor? 1, 2, 1, no. I see 10. All those opposed? And 1. Motion passes. Approved. 10, 1. And, okay, we will vote the rest of the budget tomorrow night. We had a very good working session yesterday.
I think we're done.
We're able to now go through the entire budget, stem to stern. We included all the subcommittee findings and recommendations, made other adjustments. We now have a working document that we'll be able to go through tonight and then vote on this tomorrow, okay? I have other pieces of business to discuss very quickly. Jim?
Report on my call to DPW. The,
We might have to schedule another meeting for that. Sorry.
Donna Nolan, who is the billing manager down at DPW, was moved to the accountant's office, the town accountant's office in
Right.
last August.
Yep. No? Wait a minute, but he said she was moved to that office, right?
Well, do I have the floor, Mr.?
So, my apologies, Mr. Guerin. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. It
Obstreperous
appears
and
now
recalcitrant.
that the town manager has taken her salary out of the DPW budgets, sewer and water, and I see an entry in the accountant's office for that amount of money plus a 10% raise. So it looks like a reclassification of that person in the accountant's office. Now,
Accountant or,
she may
or
work
the,
for, she
asse-
may,
or the collector treasurer?
accountant's office.
The accountant's office. I didn't think so, hang on. It might be a similar number, Jim, just because they're trying to get parity of similar types of positions, but
That position has in fact been reclassified, and you will find it 50% in water and 50% in sewer.
okay.
It is not in the accountant's
The
office.
physical person resides in the
Physical
treasurer
person is,
collector's office.
she is, until the new business manager, or excuse me, finance person, the new business administration director at DPW is hired, she is temporarily located in the town hall.
Would she be relocating back to
She
DPW?
will be going back to DPW.
Okay.
There is no salary line in either the sewer or water budget for her salary.
Can you tell us,
Look under Program Administrator 1. That position has been reclassified.
Holy, I keep track of that.
which page are we on?
53 of the new, what you handed out, is
Wow.
the sewer.
Wow, okay.
So I see Program Administrator 1, $48,114. There's a 3/4 of an FT, let me see. There's .75 of an FTE there. Is that correct? That's 2 employees?
That's 2 employees. There's one Program Administrator 1 that's 25% in the 4 categories, and one Program Administrator 1 that is 50% in sewer and 50% in water.
This is,
Existing DPW employees.
So one of them is the billing systems manager that was in last year for $33,074. What is the other one that makes up that other?
It's one of the clerical positions that was in General Highway.
I think DPW will break me again. So it's not this, okay, so it moved from highway to water sewer, is that what you're saying?
No, the Program Administrator 1 is now .25 in highway,
In all 4?
Right.
all 4
Yeah.
of the DPW budgets.
Yeah, what we've done is real cost accounting. That position works across all 4 department, or all 4 sub-departments or divisions, so we've split the position between the 4
No, I
divisions.
understand that, but you have 2 employees now that make up the program administrator 1, correct?
2 Program Administrator
2 of
1
them.
positions.
Right, one of them was this billing clerk that was in water sewer.
And
What is
one-
the other one?
One of them was one of the clerical in General Highway.
So if I go to general highway, I'll find a clerical that's no longer there this year.
Yep.
But
Bruce?
under the sewer and water, I believe, you have the number of employees as 2. And you have, in the other DPW budgets, you have the number of employees as 1 for this program administrator job. So
Yes.
the program administrator in the DPW, that's now .25,
Is
and
one
it's one
person.
person, and it's split across those 4.
And then there's
And
another person.
then there's 2 people
No.
that are 3/4 in sewer.
No. The number of employees is a head count.
Correct.
The FTEs is how you split them.
Yes. So is it 2 or is it 1?
There's one person that's split across 4 divisions, and
Which is
another
0.25
person that's
each.
split across 2 divisions.
So I understand what you just said. It's not replicated here.
Yes, it is,
It is.
because if you have someone that's even 0.01%, as far as head count comes in to that division, it comes in as 1.
It might be almost easier to have 2 lines for Administrator 1, one at .25, which is 1 employee, and a second Program Administrator 1 for .50 that equals to 1 employee.
So,
We have it rolled up.
so you have 2 bodies,
Three-quarters time assigned to that department.
okay.
But when you ask for head counts, it's got to be, no matter what this
Whole people.
percentage is, it's only whole people you can count. And it was the FinCom who requested the head counts.
Yeah, we've got to figure out a better way to represent it. And
You
it's
know,
on this piece
the-
of paper.
Reconciling that sheet with the budget is,
Yeah.
You're counting it the way we're counting it?
Yeah, we're trying to do the trail here, and it's not helping, so.
do you have all of that, Pat?
I'm sorry? Oh, Pat? Jim's
Pat,
asking a
do
question.
you have all of that?
I'm closer than I was, and I wanted to do a little bit more with DPW to make sure that I'm
Pat, if you look
Clear.
on page 31, there is a clerk, sorry, it's not page 31, it's page 30. You can see that one of the senior clerks is gone.
Yes, I did see that.
So,
I just wanted to go through the entire department and make sure.
is that a senior clerk?
I think it's a senior clerk, too. This time of
Senior
day, I
clerk,
don't
too.
get the line straight without a ruler.
So that senior clerk too, in the DPW general and highway, 61,518. Sorry, clerk 2. I got 61. Clerk 1,
Yeah, it's a clerk
Is
1 that was
gone.
eliminated. Clerk 2 is still there.
right, so clerk 1 has now been reallocated to water and sewer at .5 each.
No, .25 water, .25 sewer, .25 highway, and .25 sanitation, because she works across all 4 divisions.
Water, sewer, sanitation, and,
And highway.
General highway.
General highway.
okay, so that'd be the footnote here on that one, and we'd
Yes.
asterisk that position.
Yes, and that's why I said, asked Jamie if there was maybe a time we could get together just to
In the
make.
future, when you make these kind of moves, it would be helpful to us if you asterisked the position and footnoted it here before it gets to us, rather than us trying to reconstruct the scene of the crime.
Not the same
I'm going to figure it out.
Well,
best practice.
I agree the end result is
Actually, it's
is
transparency. It
it's
shows where she really works.
But the scene of the crime is going to be the work to undo or to figure this all out
She's one
and
of
connect the
these. She's now
dots.
this.
It is a crime scene.
This program administrator 1.
Well,
We'll solve the murder, but at the end of the day, it is I agree with the accounting practice being used here.
of course, it would be great if we had one account for Public Works.
I think that
I'm sold.
once you get to Munis, this will not be a problem anymore.
I think you're right.
Yes. It'll show this level of detail. So, okay. Did we have any other questions on this? What even started this line of questioning?
Oh, Jim was giving us an update on his
Oh, on his
fact-finding
findings,
from
that's
last
right.
night.
So this starts with you, huh, Jim? Any other comments, Jim, on your research? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, your mic?
Beat that?
We understand you found it challenging. The detail is dense, yes, I would agree with you, and probably not intuitive. Is that?
Yeah, something less than intuitive, yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you for your report. Are there any other reports back? We can expect the rest of that detail tomorrow night? Okay. All right. So we have voted articles. We have voted the school budget. We have voted language for the unexpended articles to be included as part of standard language in each motion. We have reviewed the library legal opinion and met with the Intergovernmental Relations Standing Committee and answered the rest of their questions, and they have broken from their public hearing and have voted. Municipal Operations has also have moved to vote. So I'm going to move on to the next item that I have here, which is just that we redistributed the article funding source document. It includes on the back page now the 6 articles for the special town meeting. So please do me a favor and review this. I appreciate everybody's input to kind of get this fixed. I was doing it in between the raindrops at work, and we got about 98% of it done, but the cleanup was extremely helpful, so thanks, everybody. So take a look at it. If you have any feedback, just let me know. Okay? To the best of my understanding, we have a, let me use the right word.
I also have the petitioned articles.
It seems like we have a tentative agreement for the collective bargaining for the townhouse employees. My understanding is tomorrow we will have the signed documentation from the Board of Selectmen and from the unions for us to review. I'm going to recommend that we re-meet on Monday to vote this, if that works for everybody, because we're going to the printer on Tuesday. So there's a lot of work to be done between now and then. That gives us 6 days to review this. Okay? And iPads, I was told by the IT director today that the iPads were complete and he was delivering them to Ms. Velasquez. I didn't see anything but voting booths in the Tanner's room back here. Do we have new laptops yet, Ms. Velasquez? iPads? You have them. All right. Huh? Yeah, do you have a document that they have to sign receipt for, or? Huh? Yeah, because we also should also distribute whatever the IT policy for uses of email and things of that nature also should be distributed as part of whatever we're giving out if you've got that. Otherwise, we'll do it tomorrow night. Well, I think it's okay that we kind of get them figured out. We probably could have saved about 2 cases of paper tonight. Bruce? Well, actually, I don't need one. I'm not going to pick one up. So, but that's only because I have one for the school building committee. So, but yeah, I would encourage you to at least to get used to it and to understand it and know it. And it's probably better to learn it in the off season than it is in season, but to have it for town meeting is a good thing. So we got them for a purpose. Once we distribute a final budget and vote it, we got more paper to come, and you're also going to be assigned a town email address to go with your laptop. So this is not a retirement gift. We couldn't frame it. Pat?
What about the petitioned articles? We didn't do those. The other night we stopped.
Oh, yeah. Let me time out. So the petitioned articles, can we do those tomorrow night? Does that make sense?
That's fine, I just didn't want to forget them.
Yep. Go ahead, Bob.
Yes, I believe we did.
We're just asking for you?
Petitions.
All right.
Can I bring somebody, can I get somebody else in to answer them for
You're
you?
still stuck on the joke. There you go. I think the concern, as far as the Glen Echo project, and everything that they're doing down there, at the end of the day, what type of resources will the town provide once that project is done? Anything from the DPW or anything else as far as maintenance is concerned?
The long-term plan would be that we would maintain whatever it is we put in there.
Okay.
Again, that's always subject to what is passed at town meeting in a budget, but
Okay.
I think the feedback we want to give to the CPC is what we keep stumbling over is that people want to know how the place is going to be secured, how it's going to be supported, who's going to clean up after it, et cetera. All the operational questions that are out there now. People are not understanding that you're moving into they're moving into phase one of upgrading that property. And I don't know that they're saying that it's going to be open or it's not going to be open. So there's underlying questions about how this is going to be maintained once these enhancements are made. So the question is the police department going to be patrolling it or not? That's your decision. Who's going to empty the trash and do whatever maintenance that needs to be done, general litter pickup and general maintenance? Is the DPW doing that, or is the CPC going to provide funding for a position?
technically, I don't believe CPC can provide funding for an ongoing program under the statute.
Okay?
And the way the town's set up now, organizationally, it would fall under the purview of DPW, quite frankly.
Well, that's what the thought was. But what people are looking for is a definitive decision about that. And again, are we going to install gates? Is it going to be secured? Will it be monitored by camera and at the police station? Or is there going to be a patrol through there? People want to know what the security plan is and the maintenance plan.
Who's going to lock and unlock the gate every day? Every day.
Gone on the way by, Jim. That's right. Thank you, John.
It comes with that iPad you're getting, Jim.
So you're going to scan it? There's going to be an electronic device to...
The devil is in the details here, and we don't get any details. We get big pictures, and unfortunately...
Well, and I think nobody, quite frankly, has thought through the details yet. I think once the project is approved by town meeting and funded, then we'll have to work out the details going forward for both maintenance and security.
It would make more sense to know what you're biting off before you commit to it. I've got to feel. Thank you.
Barbara?
I just wanted to say that this is the exact same questions that Jim brought up the questions that were brought up when the Libby playground was built, and they have the little gate there, and we were worried about security and everything else. And I'm not sure who does the gate, but there's definitely somebody that comes and opens the gate and shuts it, and there's been no problems over there. And it's the exact same thing. It abuts the Bird Street. And there's been no vandalism or anything down in that area, so I'm pretty sure that whatever happened at Libby can go right ahead and happen at Glen Echo too.
But didn't we approve a separate article for cameras down there?
No, that was at the CAP. That wasn't at
Oh,
the
different
Libby.
place. Okay, sorry.
What did you say, Jim? I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know who has it, but I know somebody does. I think it's the police. Roberta, do you know who does the Libby? It's the police. The police drive by at dawn and open the gate, and then they come back, like, depending on when dusk is, and close it. And they lock it. Okay.
Okay. Any more discussion on that? There are only 3 petitioned articles, so if you guys are okay with it, we could just vote those right now if you'd like.
And Glen Echo that we just talked about, because we referred that, so we haven't voted Glen Echo yet either.
Plus Glen Echo.
So I think it's just the 4. I'm just checking to see if we missed any.
Does that work? Oh, Denise left. Does that work for the committee, or do you want to wait till tomorrow night?
Yeah,
Okay.
tomorrow, just the budget.
Which Glen Echo one, what was the number?
40, page 20, 44A, the
Okay.
Glen Echo Recreational Facilities Design and Construction that we just discussed. I said, I have that we referred it.
I have a,
Oh, did the refer fail? I'm sorry.
it failed 6-4.
I'm sorry. Okay,
Then
so
it
it
was
was
approved 8-2.
Never mind, so it's just the petition. I'm
So
sorry.
now I'm on Article 46. My understanding is that this is going to be withdrawn because it's already been implemented.
Is that the hotel?
The hotel and meals tax.
Yes, it was voted at the 2010 meeting, and nobody bothered to tell DOR. DOR has now been informed, and effective today, in fact, we begin to collect the tax.
Okay. So
Motion to refer to town meeting?
I would rather have a motion to take no action because there's nothing to approve or vote.
So
I'll
we-
take a motion to refer.
I just didn't know if we could do a negative motion, or would we motion to approve and let it
It's not a negative
fail?
motion, it's a motion to take no action. So, motion to refer, we've got one on the table, right?
Yeah, I'd be glad to amend it if there's a better way.
John, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Motion to refer, it's unanimous. Article 47, to amend the 1970 zoning bylaw map as amended with respect to land on Turnpike Street in North Stoughton. What's that?
Yeah, the petitioner wishes that to be withdrawn.
Oh, yeah, down in the Board of Selectmen, so, can I have a motion?
Motion to refer, and we'll put the same note that it will be withdrawn at town meeting.
Okay, can I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor, show of hands. It's unanimous. It was a motion to refer. Article 48, to establish Pleasant Street Senior Housing Overlay Zoning District. Do you want me to read it?
As printed?
As printed. Okay. And this was for the senior housing project that was presented, hang on a second. As presented by Calamar. Right, and Connery Associates. And that was the Autumn Ridge Estates, senior housing. Excuse me, can I have a motion? Approved. Second was Bob. Discussion. Got it out of your system, huh? Okay, I'll need a show of hands on this. All in favor? I got 10, I got 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All opposed? 1. Motion passes 9-1.
Mr. Chairman?
One moment. Approved. Mr. Guerin.
While we're on the subject of senior housing, can we get more information on why that project up at Central and Turnpike Street was canceled or dropped or whatever it was?
I have an understanding, but I defer to the town manager.
I think I have the same understanding you did. Given the current state of affairs, the Housing Authority has decided not to proceed.
We also understood that the source of funding so there was an agreement when this passed that the town or the housing authority would maintain certain costs associated with that property while it was in the process of closing, one of which was the insurances. The source of funding that they thought was available, as my understanding, was not available. And with now just an interim director at the housing authority, the insurances aren't being paid because there's no funding source for it. So as a result, I believe it's going to be reverting back to the original owner. I don't think it's a bank. I believe it's a philanthropic source. So It's, the Housing Authority falls under the State Authority of, well, there's a particular group, it's an alphabet soup, it's 4 letters. And right now.
DHCD.
What is it?
I think it's DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development.
My understanding is that they now are reluctant to proceed with this project as well, based on what's happened. And so I believe that the project is now defunct as a result. Okay? So it would take town officials, state representatives and senators, I think, to revive this thing, but at this moment, not at this time that I know of. It's too bad because it was, you know, the town was behind it. It sounded like a very good plan, but it's now it turns out to be an extremely fragile situation, and probably better that we didn't, because there's just too many moving parts that are now broken.
This is not the town entity dropping this.
No, it'd be the Housing Authority. Yeah, and basically because they failed to make the insurance payments, I believe, and maybe other financial support, it is now reverting back to the original owner. Is my understanding. I might have to underscore that with a footnote and a legal opinion, but.
That is my understanding also.
Okay. All right, and that's it for the petition, correct? All right. So we're meeting tomorrow night. We are voting the budget, and I think that's going to conclude our business in terms of getting the warrant voted, reviewed, and approved, and in progress to prepare to be sent to a printer and then mailed. Please stop by and see Jamie for an iPad. She might have a lollipop too. And I'll make sure that we get the policy from the town, from the schools, on appropriate use of the IT equipment and email addresses. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Bruce. Second was Jim. Sorry, Bob. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, everybody.